Chapter 56, Life on the left, Death on the right 2. In missing 5 types of medicinal herbs, Xu Qing looked at the small cubicles around him. After thinking about it, he took out some more and tried to concoct a satisfactory effect with the help of the yin-yang extreme art. However, it was obvious that this kind of things was very difficult. Hence, it was only when the night had passed and the sky was bright outside did he manage to barely match the medicinal herbs he needed. Looking at the black mucus in the stone basin, Xu Qing frowned. This was different from what he had imagined the white pills to be. However, since he had already done this, he couldn't give up. Hence, Xu Qing gritted his teeth and took out a large bunch of 7-leaf grass, mixing them according to the ratio. At the next moment, the medicinal liquid in the stone basin directly bulged and its color showed signs of changing. However, this change only lasted for 3 breaths of time before it stopped. When he looked over, the medicinal liquid in the stone basin was no longer pitch black but brown. Xu Qing hesitated. He touched the purple crystal on his chest and considered the fact that his antibodies against poison were very strong. Hence, he felt a little more at ease. He then lifted his hand and carefully dipped it into the stone basin. After that, he grabbed some medicinal paste and kneaded it into the shape of a pill before bringing it to his nose to sniff. A stench spread out, causing Xu Qing to be a little afraid to eat it. Can it be eaten? Xu Qing's expression was a little conflicted. After pondering for a while, he took the medicinal pills and walked out to the medicinal field. As soon as he got close, the wolf howls rang out once again. Xu Qing didn't stop walking. He passed through the medicinal field and headed straight for the source of the wolf howls. Very soon, among the weeds at the back of the medicinal field, a large cage made of iron vines and wood appeared in front of Xu Qing. In the cage, a skinny black-scaled wolf lay there weakly. After seeing Xu Qing, it immediately stood up, revealing its teeth as it let out a low growl. However, the terror in its eyes already showed its fear of Xu Qing. This black-scaled wolf was something Xu Qing had encountered when he was picking herbs in the depths of the jungle. At that time, the other party wanted to launch a sneak attack on him, but he didn't manage to kill it after capturing it. Hence, he locked it up here and used it as a medicine testing beast. Upon noticing the black-colored pill in Xu Qing's hand, the black-scaled wolf immediately trembled and retreated repeatedly. However, it was still too late. Xu Qing's left hand reached into the cage and grabbed the black-scaled wolf's neck. As it struggled, he forcefully dragged it in front of him. Xu Qing was expressionless as he stared coldly at the trembling black-scaled wolf. His right hand then took out the medicinal pill he had refined and placed it beside its mouth. The black-scaled wolf trembled even more. In the end, it submitted to the threat of death and obediently ate it. A long time later, the black-scaled wolf's entire body emitted black smoke and it started vomiting. A large bump then appeared on its head and very soon, it shattered with a bang. Its body then went limp and it lay there panting. Xu Qing frowned and threw a few pieces of meat in. He then turned and returned to the lab, sitting there and thinking hard. How can it be ineffective? There are some problems with the final effects of the medicine. This isn't dissolving the anomalous substances, but exploding them. A moment later, Xu Qing felt that it should be because he lacked a primer. He needed a medicinal primer to purify the effects of these medicinal liquids. As for the primer, it can be mixed from snake venom. With a wave of Xu Qing's hand, 3 different poison glands flew over. After he squeezed out the poison, the medicinal liquid in the stone basin immediately emitted a sizzling sound and green smoke. This smoke contained lethal poison. When Xu Qing saw this, he immediately lifted his right hand and waved it, stirring up a gust of wind to disperse the poisonous fog outside the room. He then placed the medicine basin at the side and waited for it to ferment. While waiting, Xu Qing sat cross-legged and closed his eyes to cultivate the mountains and seas art. When the sky gradually darkened, Xu Qing opened his eyes and checked the medicinal liquid that was becoming increasingly viscous after fermentation. He then took out some and rubbed them before heading to the black-scaled wolf. A moment later, amidst a series of loud bangs, Xu Qing returned gloomily. He sat there and continued to ponder. He even took out the completed white pill and melted it before studying it bit by bit. Just like that, 6 days passed quickly. During these 6 days, Xu Qing seemed to have forgotten everything that happened outside, and was immersed in the development of the white pills. He had used up more than half of the medicinal herbs in the small compartment in the lab, and the medicinal field was almost empty. He had also improved the white pill liquid he refined more than 10 times. As for the black-scaled valve, after the last test, the anomalous substances in the other party's body instantly reached their limits. It even caused the anomalous substances in the surrounding spirit energy to gather and instantly turned into blood mist that collapsed. If it wasn't for the fact that Xu Qing's shadow could absorb anomalous substances, the convergence of anomalous substances back then might have invaded his entire body. That scene made Xu Qing feel a little discouraged. However, he knew that the white pills weren't that easy to refine, especially since he didn't have all the medicinal herbs he needed to concoct them. This made it even more difficult. Even so, his experience in mixing still increased. At the same time, out of the 10 or so modifications, although the last one couldn't be considered a success, it still had some effect. However, this effect was the complete opposite of the white pills. The white pill dissolved anomalous substances, and the last pill Xu Qing improved was to rapidly attract anomalous substances over. At that moment, he lowered his head and looked at the stone basin in front of him. There was a layer of green membrane on the surface of the basin. It was formed from the melting of the 7-leaf grass. Under this membrane was an incomparably pitch-black medicinal liquid. The reason why the diaphragm was used was because once the diaphragm disappeared, the medicinal liquid wouldn't even need to be swallowed before it would automatically attract a dense concentration of anomalous substances. This was half of the reason why that black-scaled valve died. Xu Qing sighed and rubbed the space between his brows. Only after he sensed the fluctuations in his cultivation did the feeling of defeat dissipate. Although the medicinal pills didn't go smoothly, his cultivation base had grown very quickly during this period of cultivation. Now, he had reached the perfected 5th level of the mountains and seas art. I should be able to break through to the 6th level tonight. Xu Qing took a deep breath and put the matter of the medicinal pills aside. His eyes revealed anticipation as he focused all his efforts on breaking through his cultivation. In this chaotic world, the stronger one was, the greater the chance of survival. That night, when the bright moon hung high up in the sky, a loud boom rang out from Xu Qing's body. This time, the sound was much louder than before. Xu Qing, who originally thought that there was no filth in his body, once again released a large number of impurities. An unprecedented sense of transparency filled Xu Qing's body. At the same time, a faint roar rang out from behind him. The shadow that would only appear when he punched out previously also appeared behind him at this moment. Its body grew larger and its viciousness grew stronger. In fact, it no longer had a single leg but a pair of legs. This was especially so for the Z shadow that appeared with a horn on its head. This wasn't Z, but an embryonic Kui. The instant it appeared, the soundless roars of embryonic Kui spread in all directions, causing the cries of many mutated beasts in a dark jungle to come to an abrupt halt. Xu Qing slowly opened his eyes, and the purple light instantly illuminated the entire lab like a bolt of purple lightning. As the purple light filled the air and the roars of the young Kui behind him rang out, the expressionless Xu Qing sitting there actually gave off an unprecedented sense of oppression. A long time later, as the purple light in his eyes disappeared and the shadow behind him disappeared, Xu Qing mumbled, 6th level of mountains and seas art.